Again, I bring back Mike Siefkes to talk about opportunities and needs for Indigenous engagement in sea lamprey control. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks. Me again. I wanted to finish off this round of talks by talking about some new opportunities and actually some emerging and evolving work that we're doing within sea lamprey control to be more inclusive of Indigenous knowledge systems and Indigenous communities and sea lamprey control work around the basin. This is some exciting work that we've been especially putting a lot of effort into over the last year or so. So I wanted to just give an update on that ongoing work and some opportunities for the future. So first off, I wanted to start out with a big thank you or miigwech to all of the people that I've dealt or that I've communicated with and engaged with over the course of my tenure anyway with the Great Lakes Fishery Commission on sea lamprey control. A lot of these relationships that have been built are really new, relatively speaking, within the last few years, or at least the last decade or so, as we've entered into agreements and we've educated ourselves, we've gone through trainings and really to better understand the Indigenous perspective when it comes to natural resources, sea lamprey control, and certainly other endeavors that the Great Lakes Fishery Commission has done. So this is just a quick list of some of the folks that really have stepped up and have provided a lot of great discussions and sounding boards on things that we're doing within sea lamprey control. So just, a first sort of overarching, observation or basically something that the Commission does is that we build basically all of the things that we do based on consensus. We come to the table, we look for win-win situations when there are contentious issues, and everybody might not be able to go away with everything that they want, but they have wins that they can hang their hat on when they go away from the table. So really that's how it works, and that's the way that the Commission has been so successful over its 70-year history, is that it has that normal mode of operation, so to speak, as we go into discussions with all the different parties around the Great Lakes that have interests in the resources, rights holders, stakeholders, however you want to term it. So with that backdrop, it really is important to think about that in the inclusion of the Indigenous perspective and communities in sea lamprey control from that framework. And perhaps the most notable way in which we do this is through our joint strategic plan process. It is a consensus-based agreement, handshake agreement among all the parties, as we all are sitting here are part of that. We do have Indigenous representation within the JSP process, all through the tribal sort of organizations and perspective on the U.S. side. We have Gliffwick and Cora and the 1854 Treaty Waters, Red Cliff, and so we do have that opportunity to really take the tribal perspective on the U.S. side and put it towards sea lamprey control, just because we have that framework already established. And really that's what we do. We have a sea lamprey control board. It's the advisory board that is very similar to the CLC in making recommendations to the Commission on how we do sea lamprey control. This is the general process here. It's very grassroots, so to speak. It starts with our operational task forces. It builds through a leadership team and a budget integration group. Those recommendations about how we do sea lamprey control go to the Sea Lamprey Control Board. That gets filtered through the Sea Lamprey Control Directorate at the Secretariat, so my directorate there. And ultimately those recommendations get presented to the Commissioners for ultimate decisions on how we go forward with sea lamprey control. In this process, we do have Indigenous representation currently at the Sea Lamprey Control Board level. We have a member of Gliffwick that serves as one of the core members of the control board and provides that Indigenous perspective. So we've had that for years, and that certainly is something that that is apparent as we think about how we may be able to improve the Indigenous participation and engagement as we go into the future. So now just a few examples of kind of things that we've done over the recent past, to create better relationships and engage our partners. Just a few examples here. I want to talk about the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, so that's Saugeen First Nations and Nawash First Nations. And we had an issue there several years ago with a dam that was super important to sea lamprey control. I think the Saugeen River quite possibly could be one of the largest, if not the largest, sea lamprey producing tributaries to Lake Huron, outside of maybe the St. Mary's River. If this dam were to fail, and it was failing, and we could not come to consensus or an agreement on how we could rebuild this barrier. So we had a very forward-thinking commissioner at the time, Jim McCain, who resided very close to that area, or at least used to, and stopped into the offices there for Saugeen Ojibwe Nation after this impasse and said, let's talk, let's get together, let's make this happen. And it was largely that interaction that Commissioner McCain put forward that led to a very successful engagement agreement that we had with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation to get this barrier rebuilt. And it's been highlighted in several publications. There was Indigenous research publication at the Journal of Great Lakes Research that highlighted some of this and the importance of Indigenous knowledge systems in fishery management. And it was highlighted as one of those success stories about how these things can move forward in the future. So a lot of, that is one really good positive story that we had and coming out of these engagements within a relatively short time period. Now we have ongoing talks with Saugeen Ojibwe Nation as well. We're currently talking about how we can enter into a memorandum of understanding about how sea lamprey control will be implemented in their traditional territories. That is currently ongoing, and we're looking at completing this work hopefully here in the very near future. We hosted several. Well, actually, we didn't host. We participated in several two community gatherings on. One at Nawash First Nations and one at Saugeen First Nations to talk about this and to hear concerns about sea lamprey control, about pesticides and chemicals in the water, and really just to hear everybody in these communities and bring them together to talk about this and come to a conclusion about how we can be better about implementing these our programs within their waters. So. This is a work in progress, like I said, but I believe it's something that's going to be a really positive outcome here in the near future. So another engagement agreement that we have is with Mississauga First Nations, and it really revolves around treatment of the Mississauga River and tributary to the North Channel of Lake Huron. We entered into this agreement about a decade or so ago, and or maybe even not that long ago. It might have been 5 or 7 years ago, and really we were working with the First Nation to do some fishery assessments and to also better understand the impacts of sea lamprey control, and in particular a couple of the tributaries that are important to this First Nation. And successful treatment was able to go forward in the Mississauga River based on this engagement. And there was good fishery information that came out of that as well that has helped the First Nation in their endeavors too. Another one in that same area is the Garden River First Nation. We have an engagement agreement with the Garden River. It's between the Commission and the Garden River. And this was also struck because of some concerns about lampricide treatment in the Garden River and the Root and Echo rivers that are part of the traditional territory of Garden River and also on reserve lands as well. And we were able to, and again, we implemented some fishery assessment work there, and some really good partnerships developed between our Canadian control agent, Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and Garden River First Nations, and there's joint work that's done on these systems now. We're also working on some questions about our sea lamprey barrier in the Echo River, so those are ongoing as well, and we're planning on meeting with Garden River First Nations next week at the Upper Lakes Committee meetings and that'll be a pre-meeting in advance of a larger meeting on April 7th to further talk about those concerns and those opportunities that we have for better sea lamprey control in these areas. So another successful example of working with our Indigenous partners. Another recent success story is with the Bad River Band in northern Wisconsin. We just entered into a new stewardship plan. That's our terminology basically for the engagement agreement with the Bad River. And it's for 10 years. This is a huge win for both the Bad River and the Sea Lamprey Control Program, as it really builds on successes over past agreements and opens up some new opportunities anyway for sea lamprey control on the Bad River. This is a huge thanks to Jacob Rodmaker with Bad River and Sean Nowicki with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who were paramount in getting this stewardship plan in place. So another really good opportunity. This next engagement agreement has lapsed, and we haven't, largely due to COVID and maybe a couple other issues, but we did have an engagement agreement with Walpole Island First Nation to help assess the sea lamprey population within the St. Clair and Detroit River system. So they were going out and doing netting work to capture out migrating transformers so that we could better understand what the contribution of the St. Clair River and Detroit Rivers were to the sea lamprey population within Lake Erie. That really the determination based in part on that work is that the St. Clair and Detroit Rivers aren't really a significant contributor to Lake Erie at this point. There's probably just too many mouths to feed, with walleye and smallmouth bass and some of the other predators there that are likely picking off lampreys coming out of this system. So some really important work to determine that, though, coming out of this engagement agreement. We heard a little bit, Lexi talked about the Supplemental Control Initiative, and we call this SupCon, and it really looks at the suite of adult control tactics like sterilization and trapping and electrical barriers, portable electrical barriers and things like that we can implement on a system to delay the need for lampricide treatments. And we've been really successful in a suite of streams using these techniques. The beauty of these techniques is they don't require pesticide applicator licenses, medical clearances, or anything like that. We've recently expanded this work up into several tributaries up on the shore of Lake Superior, one notably in the Keweenaw Bay, and we have a partnership with the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, and they help us implement these supplemental controls on that local system. So really, in addition to all the great science that's coming out of this, probably one of the best things that's coming out of this is just the thought and the idea of local collaboratives that can be established to implement this type of sea lamprey control to have a major impact on how we apply lampricides and when. And if we don't have to go into a system as often, that's a huge win. If we don't have to treat as much of the system, that's a huge win, and that's what this work is doing. And I think might be one of the future models about how we implement sea lamprey control in the future. If we can have these local collaboratives, including our Indigenous partners, to help us implement it on this scale, we could really change the model about how we control sea lampreys in the Great Lakes. So I look forward to the outcome of this research and the opportunity that might present, in the future for sea lamprey control and also in building our Indigenous partnerships. So other areas for improvement, recognizing that we do have Indigenous representation on the control board. It is with only one, it's with one agency. So I think we can we can start exploring other opportunities to have that Indigenous perspective represented on the Sea Lamprey Control Board. So that's another thing that we'll be doing, and we'll also be looking at the two-eyed seeing, which is the emblem there at the bottom, and how we take a look at implementation of sea lamprey control across the basin. One of the other things is just resource needs. Right now, the Sea Lamprey Directorate, the control agents, are pretty much maximally tasked with delivering the current sea lamprey control program And we need a lot more resources to be able to build and maintain relationships with the many other First Nations and tribes out there that are rights holders within the Great Lakes Basin. This map here just shows on the Canadian side just how many First Nations that it would be really good to reach out to and forge partnerships and agreements with, as far as delivery of sea lamprey control. But we can't do it without additional staffing to be able to build those relationships. One of the things I hear all the time is go early, go often. Make sure you have the same people that go, so you can build those relationships and create those trust relationships that are so important. So we need to consider that as we go into the future, and it's something that is certainly a need for us. So the next steps, I talked about some of the opportunities for engagement. We also have had many opportunities for training, for learning. We had a recent training at the Commission office to better understand the Indigenous perspective across the Great Lakes Basin. We did an Indigenous knowledge retreat up in at the Nawash First Nation in Cape Croker Park there, and we did that in July. It was an awesome experience, and we learned a lot. And building on those relationships, I think, in those trainings is really going to be an important thing that we do. Obviously, sharing experiences is one of the best ways to build those relationships, and we plan to do a lot more of that. So I'll end my talk here with just a few more pictures from that retreat, and just the group of people that we had there, and the hospitality that was shown us by the Nawash First Nations people was incredible. And I really look forward to this sort of new era in sea lamprey control as we think better about the Indigenous participation within sea lamprey control. So I'll stop there, and if there's any questions, or we can just open the discussion panel right away. I think that'd probably be appropriate. Thank you.